අද්විතීය 200 Mbps ස්පීඩ් එකකින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්තම හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සම්බන්ධතාවය වන SLT මොබිටෙල් දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය ඔබත් අදම අත්විඳින්න.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9, this Monday, the 5th of June 2023. Exchange rate benefits. Prices of medicines will be slashed with effect from June 15, announces Health Minister Kehelia Ramukwella. Inclement weather. Met Department issues advisory for heavy rains. Early landslide warnings to 3 districts. Revenue enhancing measures. Tax expert questions the practicality of the recent government gazette issued urging professionals across 14 categories to open tax files.
Alliance Finance මෙතුරු රන්නයි සේවාවෙන් රන් පවුම්කට රුපියල් 1,70,000ක ඉහළ අධිකාරමක්.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟම ඇති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Indivadi Amuata. From Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a warm welcome. You're joining us tonight on First at 9, your English news service on AdaDerana 24. Taking you to your top story tonight. Prices of all medicines registered with the Sri Lanka National Medicines Regulatory Authority will be reduced by 16% from the 15th of June. Minister of Health Kehelia Ramukwella said, considering the appreciation of the Sri Lankan rupee against the US dollar, the government is able to pass the benefit to the people. Minister of Health Kehelia Ramukwella announced that drugs registered under the National Medicines Regulatory Authority will be reduced by 16% from the 15th of June. The subject minister noted that the decision was made after extensive discussions with the responsible authorities by taking the encouraging appreciation of the Sri Lankan rupee against the US dollar into account. In a bid to facilitate the availability of medicines in Sri Lanka, the Ministry of Finance said the remaining amount of $423.25 million from the $1 billion credit line offered to Sri Lanka in March last year will be prioritized to import essential medicines. This was announced after India extended the credit line, which expired in March this year, by another year until March 2024. In a change of weather pattern, the Department of Meteorology forecast heavy rainfall of above 150 millimeters to several districts in the country. Issuing a weather advisory, the department said that heavy rainfall of above 100 millimeters is likely to some places in the Sabaragamu province and in Galle, Mathura and Kalathura districts. In this backdrop, the National Building Research Organisation issued early landslide warnings to 3 districts, including the Kalathura district.
According to the Department of Meteorology, southwest monsoon conditions are gradually establishing across the island. In such a backdrop, the department expects heavy rainfall above 150 millimeters in several areas of the Kalathura district tonight. Issuing a weather advisory, the department also forecasts heavy rainfall above 100 millimeters at some places in the Sabaragamu province and in Galle and Mathura districts.
Southwest monsoon conditions are gradually establishing across the island, hence a prevailing showery condition is expected to continue over the southwestern part of the island. Very heavy falls above 150 mm are likely at some places in Kalathura district. Heavy falls above 100 mm are likely at some places in Sabaragamu province and in Galle and Mathura district. Strong winds about 40 to 50 km per hour can be expected at times in northern and north central provinces as well as in Hambantota, Puttalam and Trincomalee district.
Taking the Department of Meteorology's weather advisory into account, the National Building Research Organisation has issued early landslide warnings to several areas in 3 districts including Kalathura, Badulla and Galle.
by considering prevailing rainy conditions and the weather forecast issued by the Department of Meteorology. The line-side early warning message has been extended up to 7 p.m. tomorrow. Warning level 2 alert amber warning was issued to Mataguma and Palindanura Divisional Secretary Division in Kaltara District, Passara Divisional Secretary Division in Badura District, Neluwa LPT and Nagoda Divisional Secretary Division in Gaul District, Walallavita, Budasingal and Agalawata Divisional Secretary Division in Kaltara District.
Now, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa calls the Broadcasting Authority bill an anti-democratic one and says it should be completely defeated and the free media be protected. Issuing a special statement today, the opposition leader said that the Executive Council of the opposition unanimously decided to defeat the Broadcasting Authority bill.
රජය විකාශන අධිකාරී පනතක් ගෙනවිල්ලා මේ රටේ ස්වාධීන මාධ්‍ය විනාශමුඛය කරා ගෙන යන්නට දරන උත්සාහයට අද දින විපක්ෂයේ විධායක සභාව ඒකමතිකව තීන්දුව කරා එම රජයේ ප්‍රයත්නය පරාජය කිරීම සඳහා ගත යුතු ගත හැකි උපරිම ක්‍රියාමාර්ග පාර්ලිමේන්තුව තුලත් අධිකරණයේත් ඒ වගේම ජන සමාජයේත් ඒ වගකීම අපි විපක්ෂයක් හැටියට බාර අරගෙන මේ විකාශන අධිකාරී පනත පරාජය කිරීමේ වැඩපිළිවෙල අපි ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නට කටයුතු කරනවා. ඒ සඳහා විපක්ෂයේ විධායක සභාවේ ඒකමතික තීන්දුව අද අප වෙත ලැබුණා. ඒකාධිපති ආඥාදායක විකාශන අධිකාරී පනත අපි සහමුලින්ම පරාජය කරන්නට ඕන. නිදහස් මාධ්‍ය අපි දිනවන්නට ඕන. රජයට ප්‍රකාශ කර සිටිනවා මේ හැම ක්‍රියාදාමයකින් රජය පෙන්눔 කරන්නේ රජය ගමන් කරන්නේ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදයට එරෙහිව ආඥාදායකත්වය ඒකාධිපතිත්වය රජ කරවීමයි.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe points to a lack of investment in climate change adaptation and mitigation in Sri Lanka, citing the recent severe environmental challenges such as a drop in air quality and flash floods, making countries like Sri Lanka vulnerable to climate change. Addressing an Environment Day celebration organised by the Finance Houses Association of Sri Lanka, the CBSL chief called on the finance sector and corporates to be passionate in combating climate change.
An Environment Day celebration organised by the Finance Houses Association of Sri Lanka was held today under the patronage of Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe. During the celebration, the Finance Houses Association of Sri Lanka launched a project to plant 261,000 saplings across the island, taking the Global Environment Day into account.
It has been identified that the biggest impact of climate change is on countries like ours, especially low-income countries, and the small vulnerable economies, as we already seen. And Sri Lanka is one of the countries, mainly due to lack of investment in our countries in the direction of the climate adaptation and mitigation. The recent events related to severe weather patterns, including flash floods, big waves, air quality drops, are indications that Sri Lanka also being an island nation that is victimized the climate change phenomena, and you can see the recent frequent change in climate patterns is one of the experiences that we have experienced in this country. As a country and a society, the best we could do is to contribute to the causes in the direction of climate combating, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and safeguard the country with adequate adaptation measures. Enhancing the green cover will surely help future absorption of greenhouse gases, which will add to reducing the carbon print as a nation and also as a responsible global citizens. I encourage all the financiers and corporates to be passionate about the climate combating and allocate more time and resources into innovative means of contributing to overcoming the future challenges of greening the economies.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe handed over letters of appointment to several new High Court judges. According to the President's Media Division, District Judges T.J. Prabhakaran and P.K. Paranagamage have been appointed as High Court judges. Further, Assistant Secretary General of Parliament Tikiri K. Jayathilaka and Senior State Counsel KDYM9 in Nirmala Kasturiratna have also been appointed as judges. More details on how political parties respond to the Broadcasting Authority bill after this short break. To stay with us.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන්කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ටීමෝ වෙතින් වැඩම ගොඩයි ගොඩම තමයි ස්වරාජ් ට්‍රැක්ටර් ටීමෝ වෙතින්
Abans Mid-Year Madness Sale
50% දක්වා වට්ටම් සමග මාස 24ක් දක්වා පොලි රහිතව ජුනි 20 වනදා දක්වා පමණයි.
Minister of Mass Media Bandulu Gunawardena says the Broadcasting Authority draft bill, which has drawn massive criticism, has been sent to relevant responsible institutions to obtain their opinion. Meanwhile, independent MP and member of the Freedom People's Congress, Professor G.L. Pires said the new move to introduce a Broadcasting Authority bill is a complete political decision.
ජාතික ආරක්ෂාව හෝ ජාතික ආර්ථිකය පිළිබඳ වචන සඳහන් කරලා තිබුණාට මේ පනත් කෙටුම්පතේ කොහෙවත් ඒව සම්බන්ධයෙන් පැහැදිලි නිර්වචන නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ ජනාධිපතිවරයා සහ ආණ්ඩුව විසින් ජාතික ආරක්ෂාව හෝ ජාතික ආර්ථිකය පිළිබඳව හිතන පතන ආකාරය අනුව තීන්දුව ගැනීමේ බලයක් නෛතික බලයක් පැවරන ආකාරයට තමයි මේ පනත් කෙටුම්පත් කරලා තිබෙන්නේ.
විකාශන අධිකාරී පනත ඕන වෙලාවට සංශෝධනය කරන්න පුළුවන් පාර්ලිමේන්තුව තුළ. ලෝකේ මාධ්‍ය හොඳ දියුණු තැනක තියෙන නිසා තාමත්ම ප්‍රවේශයේ මාධ්‍ය හැසිරුවේ යුතුයි. පනත් වලින් ඒක කරන්න බෑ කියලා මාත් අදහස් කරනවා.
ගුවන් විදුලි රූපවාහිනී සමාජ මාධ්‍ය කාට හෝ වේවා මේ පනත නීතිගත වෙච්ච දවසේ ඉඳන් මාස 3ක් ඇතුළත අලුත් බරපත්‍රයක් අලුත් ලයිසන්ස් එකක් ලබා ගන්න ඕනේ. තිබිච්ච ලයිසන්ස් එක පාවිච්චි කරන්න බෑ. ඒක ඉවරයි. ඒක අහෝසි. කැමති නම් දෙන්න පුළුවන්, අකමැති නම් ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරන්න පුළුවන්. කොටින්ම කියනවා නම් මේක සම්පූර්ණ දේශපාලන තීරණයක්.
මේකේ මොනවත් හක් ගන්න කරුණක් නැහැ. ඒ පනත පිළිබඳ අදහස් දක්වන්න අපි දැනට ආයතන වලට ඒ පනත කෙටුම්පත යවලා තියෙනවා. තව ඕන කෙනෙකුට ලබා ගන්න පුළුවන් අමාත්‍යාංශේ ලේකම්ට දැනුම් දීලා. Taman කුමන කොටසට විරුද්ධ වෙනවද? ඒ විරුද්ධ වීම සාධාරණද කියලා හිතනවනේ. ඒ ඕන එකක් වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන්.
We take you to business news now. In relation to the recent gazette issued making it mandatory for professionals belonging to 14 categories to open tax files with the Inland Revenue Department, experts question the practicality of implementing the process. Now, tax consultant N.R. Gajendran, while welcoming the new gazette, cited that a proper mechanism should be formulated to implement the process and bring all liable to the tax net.
As per a Gazette notification issued on the 31st of May by President Ranil Wickremesinghe in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policies, made it mandatory for professionals belonging to 14 categories to open tax files at the Inland Revenue Department. According to the Gazette, practitioners registered with the Sri Lanka Medical Council and attorneys at law of the Supreme Court, members of the Institutes of Chartered Accountants, Certified Management Accountants, engineers, professional bankers, architects and quantity surveyors are required to register with the IRD. The Gazette also makes those who have registered with their businesses with divisional secretariats and those who are in possession of vehicles other than three-wheelers, motorcycles and hand tractors mandatory to open tax files. Individuals who purchased or acquired any property in Sri Lanka by virtue of deeds transfer on or after the 1st of April in 2018 and employees whose monthly contribution from both employee and employer to any provident fund more than 20,000 rupees are also subjected to the new provision. Additionally, an individual who obtains approval for a building plan of a local authority and those who receive payment of 100,000 per month or 1.2 million for a 12-month period for providing any services in Sri Lanka are also required to register with the IRD. Any individual aged 18 years or more by the 31st of December 2023 or attains the age of 18 on or after 1st of January 2024 are also subjected to the provisions of the Gazette notification. The Gazette was issued in a backdrop where the Sri Lankan government aims to collect 3.1 trillion rupees in tax revenue.
Now under the new Gazette, there are about 14 categories of people and the most importantly people over 18 years have to register. But people over 18 years, they can register till 1st of January 2024. The practicality is the issue now. If there must be maybe about 14 to 15 million people in this country over 18 years. The Commissioner General has to evaluate it and if they are liable to tax, they will issue a taxpayer identification number. However, first is Commissioner General has to issue notice the process of registration. That has to be done in the ensuing days. Then how are we going to reach the people far and wide? In the villages, there are certain groups of people still don't have a bank account and they they may not be even access to any media information. So these people have to be reached. If all the people register, there are going to be a ton of registration if it is successful. There are people who are over 18 years. There will be people who are students still in school, just out of school, studying. They will also have to register. There may be old people who have retired. They will also have to register. It's not a question of whether you are liable to tax or not. Of course, there are categories of people who even are liable to pay tax, but they don't need to register, like employees who are subject to API and where tax is deducted and you don't need to file a return if you have only income from employment income. And when if a person doesn't register, the Commissioner General can call upon them to pay a fine not exceeding 50,000 rupees.
After a significant gain recorded during the previous session, the Colombo Bourse main index, the all-share price index, closed the day flat, extending in positive sentiment for a fourth straight day. Analysts say significant volatility was displayed as retailers remained on the sidelines, awaiting for clear direction on the domestic debt restructuring process. The index started on a solid footing, reaching an intraday high of 8,824, yet gradually sidelined as selling pressure extended on LIOC for another day. However, optimistic buying spree on blue chip counters, mainly John Keel's holdings, led the market to sustain at positive levels to close the day at 8,767, gaining 13 points. After interest rates were revised down by 250 basis points at the monetary policy meeting, Treasury counters continued to witness hefty collection. Meanwhile, turnover today remained at 710.4 million rupees and was largely led by the off-board transactions of JKH, where 430,000 shares changed hands at 140 per share. Accordingly, capital goods sector alone led the market turnover with a contribution of 50%. JKH contributed 38% to market turnover. Let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. Now, we move on to your international business stories. Oil prices rose by more than $1 a barrel after top crude exporter Saudi Arabia pledged to cut production by a further 1 million barrels per day from July to continue macroeconomic headwinds that have depressed markets. Brent crude futures were up $1.81 at $77.94 a barrel after touching a session high of $78.73. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude climbed $1.84 to $73.58 after hitting an intraday high of $75.06. Both contracts extended gains of more than 2% on Friday after the Saudi energy minister said the kingdom's output would drop to 9 million barrels a day in July from about 10 million barrels a day in May this year. The cut is Saudi Arabia's biggest in years. The voluntary cut is on top of a broader deal by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and allies, including Russia, to limit supply into 2024 as the OPEC Plus producer group seeks to boost flagging oil prices. OPEC Plus pumps about 40% of the world's crude and has cut its output target by a total of 3.66 million barrels daily, amounting to 3.6% of global demand. Still in international business, U.S. regulators are preparing to tighten rules for larger banks, which could raise their capital requirements by 20% on average to boost the financial system's resilience after a spate of mid-sized bank failures this year. Regulators are on track to propose changes as early as this month, the Wall Street Journal reported, citing people familiar with the matter. Last month, the U.S. Federal Reserve's top regulatory official told Congress that the central bank would likely unveil its plan to ratchet up capital rules for banks this summer and ensure supervisors more aggressively police lenders following the bank failures. Fed Vice Chair for Supervision Michael Barr has said the central bank was carefully considering rule changes for larger regional banks. Welcome back. We take you to your top international news. India's railway minister has recommended that the country's top detective agency should investigate the deadly crash that killed 275 people in Odisha. Railway Minister Ashwin Vaishnav announced the decision but did not give more details. Railways-led investigations have already begun and preliminary reports say a signal fault led to the crash. The three-train collision on Friday night has been described as India's worst railway accident this century. More than 1,000 suffered injuries and were taken to hospitals. Some families are still searching for their loved ones. It's not clear why the Railway Board, the ministry's top decision-making body, has recommended a separate investigation by the Central Bureau of Investigation when other inquiries have already started. The CBI investigates high-profile criminal cases, including serious financial fraud and murders. Vaishnav said yesterday that the root cause of the accident and people responsible for the criminal act have been identified. He added that a change in electronic interlocking was the likely cause of the accident, but urged people to wait for the final report. Gunmen in Nigeria have killed at least 30 people and kidnapped a number of children in separate attacks in 3 northern states in Nigeria. The region dogged by armed violence, armed gangs on motorbikes frequently take advantage of thinly stretched security forces in the region to kidnap villagers, motorists and students for ransom. Residents say armed men had attacked Janbako and Sakida villages in northwestern Zamfara state on Saturday, killing 24 people. The gunmen also abducted several children who were collecting firewoods in a forest in neighboring Gora village. Gunmen killed 25 people and set their houses on fire during an attack on Saturday on the Imande Makange community in north-central Benue State in Nigeria. Well, that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9 on AdaDerana 24. Be sure to join us tomorrow at the same time for the very latest. I'm Indivari Amuatha. Good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.